Welcome to AskReddit Stories, where I bring you the most amazing stories from all of Reddit. Today's question is, people who have witnessed a murder, what is the story? Story number 1. The day before Halloween this year, I was at a red light at a busy intersection in my neighborhood with one car in front of me. Our light turns green, so the car in front of me starts to slowly accelerate. Quicker than any of us could process, a mid-sized SUV comes barreling through the red light at least 3 to 4 seconds after it had turned red. He clipped the front bumper of the car in front of me, lost control of his car, and smashed directly into an old lady waiting at a bus stop, killing her instantly. She just picked up a pizza for her family and was on her way home. The man's car tipped onto his driver's side, so I'm not sure how he got out as quickly as he did, but he had the gall to start yelling at the girl whose bumper he took off, asserting it was her fault for being in the intersection during our green light. This was after she literally spilled out of her car door wailing because she'd just seen this poor old lady get absolutely obliterated. I was the first one to call 911, and the operator asked if anyone could perform CPR. I remember telling her that there wasn't anything left of the old lady to perform CPR on. The police deemed it an accident, and nothing ever happened to the man. Story number 2. 2 doors down from the house I grew up in lived an older couple. Their 30-year-old son came to house sit for a few days while they were on vacation. 2 robbers must have scouted the house and attempted to rob them the day after they left. Little did they know, the couple's son was inside and armed. The son heard the break-in and ran downstairs to find the robbers ransacking the place. As soon as they saw him, they tried to flee. He shot one of them a couple times, and one of the robbers ended up dead in the driveway, while the other robber got away. I can still remember seeing the body. He was just laying in the middle of the street, pool of blood under his back with his eyes wide open. Story number 3. Many years ago, I was at a pizza joint in California for a company party. It was one of those pizza places that has those really long benches and tables, so different groups wind up sitting pretty close to each other sometimes. I don't know exactly what started it, but some gang fight broke out and some random guy who was directly across the table from me got his head cracked open with a beer mug. He went down in a big pool of blood. I wanted no part in this, so I walked right to the front door, and in that time the cops were already running in. I found out a few days later that the guy had died in a hospital. Story number 4. My friends and I were riding the bus. When the bus stopped and the door opened, a masked man ran in, grabbed someone by the arm, and pulled them out of the bus and onto the street. Once they were both outside, with one smooth and clean motion, the masked man slit the other guy's throat. It seemed like a professional hit, but I don't know for sure. We rushed to help him, but he died within seconds. Story number 5. I was 6 years old at my babysitter's house after school. The husband came home drunk and demanded he speak with her in the backyard. About 5 minutes go by, and I hear their dog barking, demanding it be let inside. When I opened the door, the dog barked several more times and then ran to the back of the backyard. I followed the dog and saw it. The husband had shot my babysitter and then himself. She was already dead when I found her, but the husband was still breathing, and I watched him die right in front of me. It's still one of my most vivid memories 21 years later. Story 6. When I was around 12, my friend and I were tossing a football back and forth in the street. His parents were having one of their usual screaming matches when his mother burst out of the door. She made it about halfway across the street before we heard the boom of a shotgun, and she went down. Story number 7. I was in Terminal 2 in Barcelona Airport the morning of March 24th, 2015. There were only 3 flights leaving the terminal, and we were all delayed due to fog. 150 people boarded Germanwings Flight 9525, 30 minutes before we boarded our flight. Although I didn't see it happen, we were the last people to see them alive. The first officer crashed the plane into the French Alps, killing himself and murdering the other 149 people on board. It will haunt me for the rest of my life. Story number 8. I was in the parking lot of a strip mall in Washington State. A guy walked into a jewelry store and did an armed robbery. A plainclothes security guard waited until the robber exited and shot the robber in the back. I was in a car, so I didn't hear the shot, but I did see him fall and some shoppers gathering around his body. We drove by slowly to see if help was needed. When I saw how fast the pool of blood was spreading, I pretty much knew he wouldn't survive. Story number 9. I was walking home one day and saw a couple arguing. The guy started walking away from his girlfriend's car, and apparently she wasn't happy with that. She proceeded to get in the car and wait about 5 minutes until he was way off down the road. Then she slammed the gas and started barreling down the road. I was walking on the opposite side of the road, so I saw the whole thing. She accelerated down the road and hit the guy so hard he went flying like a rocket. She must have been going at least 60 miles an hour. He flew through the air and hit a tree. He died on impact. The woman screamed out the window at his body and drove away. There was blood smeared all over the crumpled hood of the car, and I'll never forget the sight of his contorted body at the base of the tree. He was literally folded in half. I immediately called the police, and within the hour they caught her at a car wash trying to clean the blood and chunks of flesh off the hood and grill of her car. I was 16 at the time. Story number 10. When I was in 3rd grade, my friend's mom had picked us up from school in her station wagon, and we were on our way home. There were probably 6 or 7 of us kids in the car, and we were stopped at a traffic light across from a homeless shelter, about to get onto the interstate. This guy is walking down the street with an armful of chewing tobacco and accidentally drops a pack. A homeless guy leaning up against the wall picked it up. There was an angry exchange in which the homeless guy refused to give back the tobacco, so the other guy kicked him and stomped him to death on the sidewalk. All 6 or 7 of us saw the whole thing. Story number 11. I was driving slowly through a crosswalk in heavy Seattle traffic when I saw a pedestrian climb up on the hood of a car and then walk over the top of the car to the trunk. He hopped off, approached the driver's side door, and grabbed the door handle to open it. I heard a single loud pop and he went down. The driver had shot him straight through the throat. My friend in the car with me was an EMT, so he stopped and he tried to do CPR, but the victim had a hole the size of a lemon in the back of his neck. I'm guessing he was dead before he even hit the ground. Turns out the dead guy was tripping on LSD. The driver was later acquitted of all charges. Story number 12. A group of kids killed my best friend in 6th grade. I don't know exactly why they did it, but apparently the kids didn't like what he was wearing. They beat him so badly that day that he was fully paralyzed and died 3 months later. My friend's parents were financially compensated, but their son was dead. No criminal charges were ever filed. The district attorney decided that the surveillance video wasn't enough evidence to convict them of anything. Story 13. When my dad first moved to North Hollywood in the 80s, he woke up one morning to some kid getting beaten by 3 guys with baseball bats across the street from his apartment. Police were called, but the kid ended up dying at the scene, and my dad saw it all from his bedroom window. Welcome to the neighborhood. Story number 14. My great aunt was driving down a road in a large city at night. It was a road with a higher speed limit, 45 miles an hour if I remember correctly. Out of nowhere, a man stepped out of the darkness on the side of the road and walked right in front of her car. She hit him at full speed and he rolled over her car and died instantly from the impact. She was acquitted of all wrongdoing by the police, but the damage was already done. Turns out the guy was very drunk and had just left a nearby bar after an argument and stumbled out onto the road. His family told her that they had no ill will against her, that they understood it was just an accident. It's been years since this incident, but she still refuses to drive at night. Story number 15. I watched my best friend die right in front of me. We were at a party and some guys started some shit and my friend tried to intervene. One of the guys pulled out a small pocket knife and stabbed him in the chest. It hit the corner of his heart. He died at the scene. I'll never forget the look on his face when he was on the ground. His eyes had rolled back. A small trickle of blood was coming from his chest. It's been 24 years, but I still remember it like it was yesterday. Story number 16. When I was about 9, my parents were taking my sister and I to SeaWorld in San Diego. While driving on the freeway, a guy ran out in front of the Jeep next to us and it split him in 2 pieces. I just so happened to be looking in that direction and saw the whole thing. It will always stick with me, the blood, the screeching of tires, and the white car that slammed into the back of the Jeep. Needless to say, we didn't make it to SeaWorld that day. Story number 17. When I was 10, my uncle murdered my mom's boyfriend at our house. It wasn't technically in our house, but he chased him through our house and killed him outside on our porch. It really destroyed a part of our family, as well as the relationship between my mom and my grandmother. This was 30 years ago, and I'm the only one alive besides my uncle that was there that night. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please leave a like, and if you want to see more, consider subscribing. Also, check out the music used in this video in the pinned comment or in the description. See you next time.